The trucks stop on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, the shelves are bare. By Friday, the average suburban father is looking at his pantry and realising the math doesn't work. By the following Tuesday, day 7, the neighbourhood hasn't just run out of food, it has run out of civilization. Most people think a societal collapse looks like a sudden explosion. It doesn't. It looks like a slow, suffocating constriction of supply lines that turns a quiet cul-de-sac into a combat zone in 1 week flat. The simulation I'm about to run you through isn't science fiction. It is based on the logistics of the modern just-in-time delivery system and the psychological breaking point of the average citizen. 90% of neighbourhoods fail this test. They fail because they are designed for dependency, not autonomy. Today, we are going to walk through the timeline of that failure, hour by hour, so you can see exactly where the fracture happens, and ensure your house is the one left standing when the smoke clears. Let's drop into the simulation. Location: Maplewood Drive, a standard upper-middle-class suburb. 2-car garages, manicured lawns, and a homeowners association that fines you for leaving your trash can out too long. Meet Jim. Jim is 45, drives an SUV, and thinks he is prepared because he has a case of bottled water from Costco and a generator still in the box. When the grid goes down at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, Jim doesn't panic. He assumes it's a blown transformer. He checks his phone. No signal. He walks outside. His neighbour, Dave, is already out there looking at the power lines. They wave. They joke about the peace and quiet. This is the camping phase. It feels like an adventure. The freezer is still cold. The water pressure is still high. The threat is invisible, so the reaction is casual. But the clock has already started ticking. While Jim and Dave are joking, the distribution centres 50 miles away have already gone dark. The pumps pushing fuel to the local station have stopped. The countdown to 0 has begun, and Jim is burning daylight. Here is the operational reality that Jim doesn't understand. The modern grocery store is not a warehouse. It is a display case. It holds roughly 48 to 72 hours of inventory under normal buying conditions. But conditions are no longer normal. When the blackout hits, panic buying spikes consumption by 500%. That 3-day buffer vanishes in 4 hours. Jim is sitting on his porch, confident that he can grab milk tomorrow. He is wrong. By the time he realises the power isn't coming back on tonight, the local Kroger is already picked clean of water, bread, and batteries. The supply chain is a conveyor belt. If the belt stops moving for 24 hours, gaps appear. If it stops for 48 hours, the gaps become chasms. Jim's household is consuming roughly 20,000 calories and 50 gallons of water a day, mostly invisibly. He has no idea that his burn rate is about to collide with a zero-sum supply environment. Most of you are like Jim. You think you have 2 weeks of food. I guarantee you don't. You have a pantry full of condiments, half-empty cereal boxes, and snacks that provide zero nutritional density. When the stress hits, your calorie burn goes up, and your supply vanishes twice as fast. You need to stop guessing and look at the hard data. I built a tool to strip away the optimism bias. Go to protocolsurvival.com. We have a free calculator there called the Survival Score. You input your family size and your actual inventory, and it tells you exactly when you starve. It's not a game, it's a logistical audit of your life. Do the math before the grid does it for you. Get your survival score today. Day 2. The power is still out. The cell towers are dead batteries. The silence on Maplewood Drive is getting louder. This is the moment of false community. The freezers are thawing. Jim realises his steaks are going to spoil, so he wheels out the grill. Dave comes over with chicken. The lady from across the street brings a salad that's starting to wilt. They have a block party. It feels heartwarming. They are coming together. But watch closely. They are consuming their primary protein reserves in a single afternoon because they lack preservation methods. They are feasting when they should be rationing. They are sharing resources based on social politeness, not strategic necessity. Jim feels like a leader because he's manning the grill. He doesn't realise he is cooking his family's lifeline. The smell of barbecue drifts 3 streets over, alerting the less prepared that Maplewood Drive has food. They are signalling their surplus to a deficit world. This isn't a party, it's a beacon. Day 3 is the pivot point. The barbecue is gone. The hangover from the stress and the carbs has set in. The water pressure drops to a trickle, then stops. This is where the suburban design fails catastrophically. You can live without power. You cannot live without hygiene. When the toilets stop flushing, dignity evaporates. Jim's wife asks him to go to the store for water. Jim drives to the store. He sees the windows smashed. He sees the handwritten sign, "No cash, no cards, no entry." He returns home empty-handed. This is the moment the emotional driver shifts. It's not about survival anymore, it's about guilt. Jim looks at his 6-year-old daughter. She's thirsty. Her lips are dry. She asks for a glass of juice. He has to say no. That feeling, that pit in his stomach, is the most dangerous force in this entire simulation. A man who is hungry will beg. A man who is watching his child suffer will kill. The polite veneer of the suburbs is held together by full bellies and running water. Take those away, and Maplewood Drive becomes a hunting ground. Day 4. The novelty is dead. The heat is rising. Garbage is piling up on the curbs because the trucks didn't come. The smell of rotting trash mixes with the smell of stagnant sewage. Jim is in his garage, trying to figure out how to filter rain barrel water with a coffee filter. He hears a noise in the backyard. He goes out to check his generator, the one he hasn't started yet because he wanted to save fuel. It's gone. The chain is cut. He scans the fence line and sees footprints leading to Dave's yard. Dave, the guy he shared steaks with 48 hours ago. Jim's mind reels. Did Dave take it? Or did someone cross through Dave's yard? It doesn't matter. The seed of suspicion is planted. Social capital has evaporated. Yesterday they were neighbours. Today they are competitors for a finite energy resource. Jim goes back inside, locks the deadbolt and pulls the blinds. The siege mentality has officially begun. The perimeter has shrunk from the neighbourhood to the property line. Now stop. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Sergeant Miller, this is paranoid. The National Guard would be rolling down Maplewood Drive by day 4 with water trucks. Let's dismantle that fantasy right now. In a regional or national crisis, the military is a finite asset. They have specific priorities: nuclear power plants, military bases, government continuity, and major hospitals. Your cul-de-sac is not on the list. The math of disaster relief is brutal. If a hurricane hits one state, FEMA surges resources from 49 others. If the grid goes down across 3 distinct regions, there is no surplus to surge. The trucks you are waiting for are stuck in the same traffic jams with the same empty fuel tanks as everyone else. The government doesn't have a secret warehouse with 300 million MREs. They rely on the commercial supply chain. When Walmart stops, relief stops. By day 4, the authorities aren't coming to save you. They are struggling to save themselves. You are on your own. Accept it. Let's talk about the biological clock ticking in Jim's living room. A human needs a gallon of water a day for hydration and basic hygiene. A family of 4 needs 28 gallons a week just to stay alive and not smell like death. Jim bought 1 case of water. That's roughly 3 gallons total. By day 4, they are out. They are drinking the liquid from canned peaches. They are eyeing the toilet tank. Dehydration causes lethargy, headaches, and poor decision-making. By day 5, Jim isn't thinking clearly. He is irritable and slow. This is the physiological degradation that precedes the violence. When your brain is dehydrated, your threat assessment breaks. You become aggressive over small things. You stop planning for tomorrow and start fighting for today. The lack of stored water is the single biggest failure point in the suburban siege. It kills the mind before it kills the body. Day 5, evening. The sun is setting and Maplewood Drive is pitch black. No streetlights, no porch lights, just the occasional flicker of a candle behind a curtain. There is a knock at Jim's door. Not a pound, just a tap. Jim checks the peephole. It's Sarah, the elderly woman from 3 houses down. She looks frail. She's holding an empty prescription bottle. She needs insulin. Her fridge warmed up 3 days ago. She is asking for ice, for power, for help. Jim has a generator, but he knows if he starts it, the noise will draw everyone. If he helps Sarah, does he have to help Dave? Does he have to help the aggressive guy on the corner? Jim stands behind the door, hand on the lock, heart hammering. He stays silent. He listens to Sarah weep softly and then shuffle away. This is the moral injury of survival. To protect his family, Jim has to sacrifice his humanity. He retreats to the living room where his kids are huddled under blankets. He tells himself he did the right thing, but the look in his wife's eyes says something else. The siege has breached the house. It's inside the marriage now. The most dangerous element of this scenario isn't the hunger, it's the silence. In the information age, we are addicted to data. When the internet dies, the rumour mill fills the void. On Maplewood Drive, the rumours are terrifying. Dave heard from a guy who has a ham radio that there are riots downtown. Someone else says the army is shooting looters on the highway. Another rumour claims the power will be back in an hour. None of this is verified. It is psychological poison. Jim is making life or death decisions based on hearsay. Should they stay? Should they pack the car and try to leave? Without intel, every move is a gamble. If they leave, they might get stuck in a gridlock ambush. If they stay, they might starve. The lack of a verified information channel turns anxiety into panic. This is why 90% of neighbourhoods fall. They fracture because no one knows the truth, so everyone assumes the worst. Day 6. The testing begins. It's not a mob. It's 2 young men walking down the centre of the street in broad daylight. They aren't carrying weapons, but they are carrying empty backpacks. They are walking slowly, scanning windows. They are testing the perimeter. They stop at the house across from Jim's, the one where the family left on day 3. They kick the door. Once. Twice. It gives. They walk in. Jim watches from his bedroom window. He waits for the police sirens. There are none. He waits for a neighbour to yell. Silence. The men emerge 10 minutes later, backpacks full. They look directly at Jim's house. They point. Then they keep walking. They have established a new rule of law on Maplewood Drive. If you can take it, it's yours. They are the scouts. The main force comes tomorrow. Jim knows this. He looks at his baseball bat. It looks pathetic. He realizes that a single man defending a single house is a tactical impossibility. He needed a team. He needed a plan. Now he has neither. Let's break down the tactical nightmare of the suburban home. It is a soft target wrapped in glass. You have multiple points of entry: front door, back door, garage, ground floor windows. To secure a standard perimeter 24/7, you need a minimum of 3 people on rotation, 4 hours on, 8 hours off. Jim is one man. He has to sleep. When he sleeps, his security is 0. The architecture of the suburbs is designed for openness and curb appeal, not defense. Those bushes in front of the window? Concealment for intruders. That privacy fence in the backyard? It just hides the bad guys while they pry open your sliding door. Without a coordinated neighborhood watch that establishes an outer perimeter, your house is a sitting duck. The lone wolf survivor fantasy ends the moment 3 guys decide they want your supplies. You can't cover 3 angles at once. You will be flanked. You will be overwhelmed. Day 7. The tipping point. The water in the toilet tank is gone. The food is gone. The kids are lethargic. Jim is running on adrenaline and despair. He sees smoke rising 2 blocks over. A house is burning. No fire trucks are coming. The fire will spread. This is the end of the location. Maplewood Drive has become uninhabitable due to sanitation failure and security collapse. Jim makes the call. They are bugging out. They pack what little they have into the car, but the car is low on gas. They get 3 miles before they hit the roadblock. Not police, but a local gang controlling the intersection. They demand a toll. Jim gives them his watch, his wedding ring, and the last bottle of water. They let him pass, but now he is a refugee. He is part of the Golden Horde, drifting aimlessly, looking for a FEMA camp that is already over capacity. He survived the week, but he lost the war. His neighborhood didn't just fall, it dissolved. That is how 90% of neighborhoods die. It is a cascade of predictable failures: lack of inventory, lack of water, lack of trust, and lack of information. But it doesn't have to end that way. There is a 10% that survives. They don't survive because they have more guns or underground bunkers. They survive because they treat the neighborhood as a system. To beat the siege, you have to build social capital before the lights go out. You need to turn Maplewood Drive from a collection of strangers into a defensive unit. This requires work. It requires awkward conversations. It requires leadership. But the alternative is the scenario we just walked through. So, how do we fix it? How do we get Jim to day 30? Step 1 is individual responsibility. You cannot help your neighbor if you are starving. You need to extend your household buffer from 3 days to 14 days. This buys you time. If Jim has 2 weeks of food and water, he doesn't have to go to the store on day 3. He doesn't have to signal his desperation. He can stay inside, keep his head down, and assess. 14 days is the magic number. It covers the initial chaos, the panic phase, and usually allows for the restoration of partial services or the arrival of real aid. This isn't about hoarding, it's about suppressing the panic curve. If 5 families on the block have a 14-day supply, they become the anchors. They are the calm amidst the storm. They can offer a cup of sugar or a battery without compromising their own survival. You must be an anchor, not a dead weight. But having the supplies isn't enough. You need the knowledge to use them when the internet is dead. When the grid goes down, your cloud notes are gone. YouTube is gone. You can't Google how to treat an infected cut or how to purify water with bleach. You need a system that works in the dark. I built Protocol Survival to be that system. It has an offline mode that downloads the entire core database to your phone's local storage. Medical algorithms, tactical checklists, radio frequencies, all accessible without a signal. Secure your data now. Go to the settings, hit offline sync, and know that when the world goes silent, your command center still works. Step 2 is the soft network. You don't need to hold a town hall meeting. You just need to identify 3 other households on your street that are sane and capable. This is your fire team. You talk to them now when things are normal. You say, "Hey, if the power goes out for a week, do we have a plan to watch out for each other?" Keep it low stakes. Maybe you agree to share a generator. Maybe you agree to check on the elderly folks. The goal is to establish a communication channel, a group text that can switch to walkie-talkies if needed. When the crisis hits, this group becomes the governing body of the block. They coordinate security, they squash rumours, they pool resources. 4 families working together can secure a perimeter. 4 families can rotate watchers so everyone sleeps. Strength is not in numbers, it is in coordination. Step 3 is OPSEC, operational security. In a siege, you do not display wealth. You do not barbecue steaks on the front lawn. You black out your windows at night. You make your house look as boring and empty as possible. This is called being the grey man. If the looters are walking down the street, you want them to look at your house and think, "Nothing there." You don't put up a sign that says, "Looters will be shot." That just tells them you have guns worth stealing. You blend in. You look just as hungry and miserable as everyone else, even if you are eating beef stew in the basement. Deception is your first line of defense. Force is the last. Finally, you need a plan for the moral dilemma. What do you do about Sarah with the insulin? If you have a fire team, you can handle this. Maybe one neighbour has a generator, another has extra fuel, and another has medical skills. You pool resources to help the vulnerable without depleting one person's stock. You create a community pot, a small reserve of supplies specifically for charity, separate from your family's survival store. This allows you to buy goodwill and maintain social order without starving your own kids. If you help the neighbourhood survive, the neighbourhood will help you defend. A grateful neighbour is an extra set of eyes. A desperate neighbour is a threat. Helping others strategically is not charity. It is a security investment. You build a web of obligation that holds the street together. Let's replay day 7 with these protocols in place. The power is out. The trucks have stopped. But Maplewood Drive is quiet. There is no trash on the street because the neighbours dug a communal burn pit. There are no looters because 2 men are sitting on porches at either end of the block, visibly holding radios. They aren't aggressive, but they are alert. Jim is inside. His family is eating rice and beans, cooked on a camp stove in the backyard, hidden from view. He checks his radio. Dave reports all clear from Sector 2. Sarah is alive because the group pooled fuel to run her fridge for 2 hours a day. They are tired. They are hungry. But they are not panicked. They are not refugees. They have held the line. They have turned a 7-day collapse into a 7-day endurance test. And when the trucks finally start rolling again on day 10, they emerge not as victims, but as a community that proved it refuses to die. The simulation is over, but the reality is waiting. The systems we rely on are fragile. They are efficient, yes, but they have zero redundancy. One cyber attack, one solar flare, one logistical hiccup, and the clock starts ticking on your 7 days. You can choose to be Jim, watching the pantry go empty and the neighbours turn into wolves. Or you can choose to be the architect of your own survival. The grid isn't what keeps the lights on. It's what keeps the monsters out. When the physical grid fails, the social grid is the only thing standing between you and the abyss. Build it now, while the internet works and the water runs. Because once the silence starts, it's too late to make friends.